Welcome to the Mindset RX podcast. My name is Tom Foxley and I help functional athletes gain the champ's mindset. Today's show, before we get into today's show, we're going to go through a few bits, not really admin, just points I want to bring up and kind of share with you guys. First of all, the most recent episode that I recorded with Cody Burkhardt, it's just killing. I've had so many nice words, not particularly directed at me, but directed at the way that Cody handled mastery, how he handled the subject of emotion, of being in control of your emotion, and just some really great points. It seems to have resonated particularly strongly with parents. Sorry, can't speak today. Let me start again. It particularly resonated with parents, so completely understandable. It's even made me think about that kind of way, and I really, really appreciate Cody's time, and I think it was an incredible episode. So if you haven't listened to that, please do yourself a favor. I think it's an hour and 20 long, so a kind of a mid-length interview, but it's fantastic. On the subject of podcast recommendations, I'm actually going to touch on something that I wasn't planning on talking about, but whilst I was talking about that, it really sat in my mind. And that was the concept of the most recent podcast Joe Rogan did with Georges St-Pierre, the UFC. I can't remember what weight class he is, 2 weight classes that he's won, but he's basically the GOAT, the greatest of all time. He's a fantastic competitor, but what is so much more interesting than that is his mindset towards success. And you can listen to that and you can really extrapolate some beautiful points from it. So I'd recommend going back. It's a 3-hour podcast. It's long, but you really get to listen to some of the big factors that made Georges such a fantastic athlete and such a fantastic fighter. So definitely go and give yourself a listen to that. The things that I'd point out that were super important is, number one, he has so many other interests other than mixed martial arts. He spends about 20 minutes talking about paleontology, talking about dinosaurs and shit, and that's as big a love for him as fighting. And you kind of get the impression that you kind of have to become obsessive over a particular thing to do well in it, whereas I think that only gets you to such a high level. The people that I find get truly obsessed with something fill up probably the 10 to the 2% or 10 to the 3% maybe. The only people who make it to the greatest of all time status, the only people who really sit on top of that leaderboard for the longest time possible, whether that's in CrossFit, whether it's in UFC, whether it's in any other kind of mixed martial arts, whether it's in whatever you want to talk about, are the people who are not only obsessive over this one area of life, but obsessive over so many more different areas too, over how well they can handle their relationship, how much they can grow as a kind of partner, how much they can learn as a human being, how good a human being they can become, how well they can kind of do in their finances. It's amazing to see that, and it's counterintuitive as well. You think you have to invest all this time into one particular area, but the truth is that you learn principles in all areas, and if you transfer them over to one area that you really want to succeed in, it helps you out immeasurably. So that's the kind of the big take-home point, I'd say. And just listen to the other one I'd say was, he's such a grounded individual. He got massively criticized as a fighter for being boring, but you know what? Boring works. Doing things simply and consistently, in my favorite words, elegant consistency. We're doing things like approaching any problem with a view to find an elegant, consistent solution. There's no match for it. No amount of flair or talent will match it. So that's my kind of my side recommendation that lasted about 3 minutes that I didn't even plan. Anyway, the other kind of points I wanted to make, just a shout out to the guys on the Mindset RX coaching certification. I know a few of them listen to the show, and actually I think most of them listen to the show, but the guys on there, I just really wanted, and girls of course, wanted to kind of give you lot a shout out, because the way that you're handling this is phenomenal. The way that you're growing as coaches and athletes and human beings is just so good to see, and I love seeing these guys grow. And if you missed out on it, if you're on the edge of applying for a spot in the coaching cert last time round, I can only say you're missing out. And not mean to rub it in, but it's going so well. And finally, so to kind of like finish that point off, everyone in the coaching cert, you are wonderful human beings, and you're doing so great. And my kind of third point with this is, I mentioned last time I'd restarted my Facebook group, which is Mindset for Functional Athletes. I've had a sudden influx of applications to it, and I'm about to kick a bunch of people out, not because they've done anything wrong, other than the fact that they aren't interacting. It's kind of like, without being too harsh, a bit of deadwood in the community. So we're trying to get rid of everyone else, get rid of kind of the people who aren't contributing regularly, and what's happening is it's becoming a really lively, enjoyable community to be part of, that is varied enough in terms of athletic styles, but also in terms of also varied enough in terms of ability too. And there's a huge amount of kind of wealth of knowledge that's about to be dropped there from my end too. So if you want to get involved in that, it's completely free, but I just thought it'd be a nice thing to have as a kind of community for the Mindset RX crew. So if you go on Facebook and searched for, Mindset for Functional Athletes Mindset RX, you'll find it. There's also a link in my Instagram handle, which is @TomFoxley. So that's admin points. And today's show is actually a very simple concept, but I think it's worth building up with a bit of background about this. The first thing is, when I started considering what mindset was, I viewed it as a foundation. I viewed 3 pillars as being supported by the foundation of mindset, and then your goals and your success setting as the kind of the roof on top. So the foundation would be mindset, and the 3 pillars would be training, nutrition, and recovery. And the way I used to describe this is, where most people went wrong, that they'd build their pillars without building the base. And this is a really nice analogy, and obviously it works very well. And the example that I used to use was, you could have your training and your programming done by, let's say, Julien Pineau or someone else, or CJ Invictus, or all these kind of wonderful programmers and coaches. You could have your nutrition done by, I don't know, Rob Wolf or Jason Phillips or someone like that. Both guests of the podcast are very early in season 2, by the way. And you can have your recovery done by, let's say, Brian McKenzie, and a bunch of other people who are really specialized, and Casper van der Meulen as well. We can focus on the recovery aspect from there, and cold therapy, and get Kelly Starrett doing your mobility and all these kind of stuff. You could have all these people doing it, but if you don't have the mindset to implement it, it means fuck all. And that was basically the kind of the summary of that. However, I realized something. That was it was underplaying the role of training, nutrition, recovery somewhat. And I'll be honest, you can get a long way with training, nutrition, and recovery alone, and without even touching mindset. Whereas, the thing that I realized though was, you can only get so far. So whilst mindset isn't the foundation, it acts as a force multiplier. And this is where I was beginning to think, what if you could just express the concept of success as an athlete, as a human being, in a mathematical equation? And stick with me, because this isn't difficult maths. You're not going to have to work anything out. I'll go through it with you. If we have success, or your chances of success, or your ultimate goal as the end subject that we're trying to reach, as the kind of the sum of the sum. By the way, my maths is shit, so excuse me if the vocab isn't where it should be, or I make some schoolboy errors here. But if you have the result as your chance of success, or whatever you want to achieve, the sum to get there is just 2 parts. It's firstly ability, but it's times by mindset. So ability is what I just talked about, the 3 pillars: training, nutrition, recovery, but it's multiplied by mindset. And why I'm making such a big point of multiplied is that if your mindset is 0, chances are it's not, because you're a functioning human being. If your mindset is 0, you can have whatever level of training you want. but without it, without the foundation, without anything mindset, if you multiply anything by 0, you'll always get 0. But if it's 0.1, you'll get a tenth of that, obviously. Where this becomes interesting is no one works on their mindset consistently, especially athletes, or especially kind of the middle ground of athletes. So what's happening is there's so many athletes out there who are competing with, like, let's look at it in a competitive way, who are competing with an almost identical level of ability to you, yet they never utilize the mindset training, which could very quickly, with such a small investment of time and effort and energy, shift or radically improve their performance, their chances of success. So we've got to look to multiply that. And if the other kind of side of this is, if I made that an addition symbol, if ability plus mindset, you could do like tiniest amount of mindset and it would help. But 0 mindset is gonna, like as I said, 0 mindset is like, if you multiply anything by 0, you'll always get 0. But if you can get that mindset up to the equivalent level, there's nothing in the world that's going to stop you. There's nothing that can sit in your way. And it's about getting that mindset in the right place and just committing to a few minutes a day. It doesn't have to be this huge, long, complex problem. It doesn't have to be something that requires a bunch of time and energy. You don't have to be sitting in a lotus pose for hours on a day. You don't have to be journaling for hours. You don't have to be opening up and sitting on a couch and crying every day, unless that helps you. But it can be achieved with 5-10 minutes in the morning, 5-10 minutes in the afternoon. And if you knew that if you worked on your pistols, like if you absolutely knew that if you worked on your pistol squats for 5-10 minutes a day, you'd reach the CrossFit Games, you'd do it, wouldn't you? But this is the level of mindset. This is where mindset needs to come in, and this is where it needs to be viewed as such an important point. So it was a very quick kind of lesson today, and lesson makes this sound so boring, but I thought it was just a very important thing to get out of you. So if you have any questions, as always, you can shoot me an email. I'm not going to give out my email again, but I'm sure you can find it somewhere, or find me on the socials. And don't forget, if you want to trade mindset tricks, if you want to become a better athlete from the inside out, head to Facebook and search for Mindset for Functional Athletes. We're going through an application phase. There'll be like a couple of questions, or maybe 3 questions for you to answer on the way in. You don't need to write essays, just a quick couple of lines about them, so we can find out who you are and double check you're not trying to sell fake Rolexes. That's the concept there, and that's the idea behind those. So don't be put off by that, but come on in and we'll hopefully see you there. And also, I've seen a couple more 5-star reviews on iTunes, which I'm hugely grateful for. So if that was you, thank you. You're the best. You are owed one Tom Foxley /Mindset RX credit of a hug at some point, so you can cash that in whenever you need. And I shall speak to you all very soon.